Rain hammered the dusty spaceport roofs as Captain Jackson Vire stepped back into his ship, the Soulfire. His boots were soaked. His jacket clung to his shoulders. But inside, the lights flickered warm, and everything smelled like home oil, metal, and recycled air. He sighed, tossing his bag down near the main console. That last delivery had been rough. Pirates on the edge of the Varnix belt, a bad trade deal on Kepler 9, and worse, his engine had started humming in a way engines should never hum. He moved toward the cockpit to start diagnostics. Then he stopped. A soft noise echoed from the cargo bay. Not a metallic ping. Not machinery. Breathing. Someone was in his ship. Jackson reached for the stun baton he kept under the side panel and crept down the narrow corridor. The ship was quiet except for the buzz of the lights. He stepped into the cargo bay. Nothing. He turned slowly, and there she was. A girl. Alien. Young. Barefoot. Drenched from the storm. Her hair was silver blue, sticking to her skin, and two thin tendrils swayed gently from behind her ears' nervous sensors, common in some border species. She wore a tight cloak, torn at the side. Her eyes glowed softly violet in the dim light. She was trying to override his ship's security panel. He raised the baton. Step away from the controls. She froze. Then, without turning, she said, "Please, I'm not here to hurt you." That's not what hijackers usually say. I'm not hijacking it. I'm escaping. From what? She finally turned. To face him. Everyone. Jackson kept the baton steady. Name. Species. My name is Theory. I'm Cathari-born. And I just need this ship to reach Sector F3. After that, I'll leave. You won't see me again. Jackson didn't lower the baton. Sector F3 is deep syndicate territory. You'll be shot down before you reach the border. Not if they don't see me. Why should I help you? She looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear but sorrow. Because you're human. And they've already killed too many of you. Jackson blinked. What? She stepped forward slowly. This war, it's not random. It's not just border skirmishes. It's planned. The attacks on human colonies. The disappearances. The plague on New Terra. It's all part of something bigger. And I have proof. Jackson lowered the baton slightly. You're telling me this because if I don't reach the relay in Sector F3, they'll erase everything. They'll silence every survivor. And your people won't even know what happened. Jackson narrowed his eyes. Why you? Because I was raised by them. I know their secrets. I saw what they did to my village, to my family. They don't. No, I survived, and if I don't act now, no one else will. She swayed slightly, legs shaking. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Jackson hesitated. He had heard rumors, whispers from dying stations and silent beacons. Something was wrong in the outer rim. But this? I'll get you food, he said finally. But one wrong move, and I lock you in the cargo freezer. Got it? She gave a weak nod, eyes lowering with exhaustion. As she ate later in the galley, Jackson studied her from the doorway. She was small, younger than she'd first appeared, and clearly scared, but something else shimmered in her. Not just fear. Urgency. You still haven't told me, he said slowly. What exactly did you see? She looked up, eyes hard. I saw a human child injected with something that made him different. They were experimenting. Not just killing humans, changing them. Jackson's grip on the table tightened. You have proof of this? She pulled a small, cracked datasheet from her cloak. Encrypted. Biolocked. Only activates near the Syndicate's master relay. They didn't expect anyone to survive with it. Why? Tell me? Why trust a stranger? Because you came back to your ship during a storm, alone. You didn't run to report me. You listened. He exhaled slowly, Jackson Vire had no plans to be a hero. He was a delivery captain with a dented ship and unpaid docking fees. But something in this girl's voice, raw and trembling, made him pause. "Fine," he muttered. "We head for F3, but if this turns out to be a trap—" "It's not," she whispered. "But if we fail, it won't matter anyway. They'll wipe us all out." And just like that, Jackson knew his quiet life had ended the moment she stepped on board. Asterisk. The stars outside stretched into long streams as the Soulfire jumped into hyperspace. Jackson leaned back in the pilot seat, hands gripping the controls tighter than necessary. He didn't trust this mission. He didn't trust the girl. But something deep in his gut told him this wasn't a lie. In the co-pilot seat, Theory sat quietly, her knees drawn up to her chest, arms wrapped tight. She hadn't said a word since their conversation in the galley. Jackson glanced sideways. "You look like you've seen ghosts." She didn't look at him. "I have." A long silence filled the cockpit, broken only by the hum of hyperspace engines. He cleared his throat. "You said they're changing humans. How?" Theory's lips tightened. "They use them in trials. They call it the reshaping. They believe humans are unstable, unpredictable. So they want to change your biology. Make you better, more obedient." Jackson's eyes narrowed. "Slaves?" "Worse. Weapons." Her words hit hard. Jackson had fought in small skirmishes. He'd seen humans die in syndicate attacks. But this was darker. "They injected children?" He asked. She nodded slowly. "They test on the young first. Minds still forming, easier to mold." Jackson looked ahead into hyperspace. His fingers twitched near the emergency beacon switch. It would be easy to report her. Let someone else handle this. But he didn't. She turned to him suddenly. "You don't have to believe me, but take me there. Let me show you the relay. If I'm lying, leave me there." "Why risk your life for this?" he asked. She hesitated. "Because I wasn't always against them. I helped them once. Until I saw what they did to my little brother." Jackson went quiet. Below deck, the engine started to groan. A soft alarm blinked red. He pushed up from his chair. "Stay here." He moved down the ladder and into the engine room. Steam hissed from a pressure valve. One of the coolant lines was cracked. Again, he opened the side panel and stopped. Tracking device. Small, new, glowing faint green. His pulse spiked. He grabbed it and rushed back to the cockpit. Theory stood when he returned, eyes widening at the object in his hand. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked. "You tell me." "I didn't plant it," she said quickly. "I swear." "But if that's from them, they already know we left," he finished, voice low. Jackson sat back at the controls. He shut down hyperspace early, dropping them into normal space near an empty asteroid field. "Why here?" Theory asked. "To hide." He powered down most of the systems and drifted the ship into the shadow of a massive rock. Outside, space was still. Black. Silent. Then the scanner beeped. "One ship. 2. All syndicate." Jackson's heart pounded. "They followed us. Fast." Theory moved beside him, face pale. "They must have locked onto the tracker before it left their range." "We're not ready for a fight," Jackson muttered. "This ship's a transport, not a gunship." "I can fly," Theory said quickly. "I've flown syndicate models." "Let me help." He stared at her. "You touch one button I didn't tell you to. I know." "I know. Freezer locker." He gave a nod. They both jumped into motion. Jackson rerouted power to the stealth shields. Theory pulled up the scanners and began mapping their movement trails. The enemy ships moved like sharks in a slow spiral. One wrong move, and they'd be detected. "We can't stay hidden long," Jackson said. "Any ideas?" Theory's hands flew across the controls. "There's a communications buoy nearby. Old tech, pre-war. If I patch into it, I can bounce a fake signal across half the sector. He raised an eyebrow. You're telling me you can make it look like we're somewhere else? Exactly. Jackson hesitated, then nodded. Thir. I slid into the terminal chair and began working fast. Her fingers moved with strange grace, like she wasn't just typing, but dancing with the data. Done, she said. On the scanner, one of the syndicate ships peeled off, and another. They were chasing the false signal. 2 left. Now we run, Jackson said. He slammed the thrusters, and the Soulfire roared out of the asteroid field. The 2 enemy ships turned in pursuit. Alarms screamed as plasma bolts skimmed their shields. Theory grabbed the side of her chair. We won't outrun them. Then, we outsmart them. He spun the ship into a nearby ice field, thousands of frozen shards drifting between twin moons. Visibility dropped to 0. Jackson shut off the main lights and switched to pulse sonar. Everything turned to shadows and echoes. The syndicate ships entered the field behind them. Jackson dodged a drifting boulder, skimmed a frozen ridge, and then cut. The engine. Silence. Cold. The enemy ships passed, still scanning. Jackson whispered, "Hold! Hold!" Then they vanished on radar. Theory released her breath. Her hands were shaking. That was close. Jackson nodded. Too close. But in his heart, he knew something had changed. This wasn't just about helping a stranger now. It was war. Jackson didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark cockpit, the stars slowly drifting past outside. The ship floated quietly in the shadow of a dead moon, hidden. Theory had gone to rest in the crew quarters, but even she knew they were just buying time. His mind raced. Human children being turned into weapons? A syndicate relay holding the truth? And now, their ship marked and hunted? Too many questions. At sunrise, if you could call the pale glow from the system's dying sun a sunrise, Jackson found Theory awake in the engine room. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, fixing one of the cracked coolant tubes. You didn't sleep, he said. She didn't look up. Did you? No. He walked over and leaned against the wall. Why did you really come to my ship, Theory? I mean, why not any other? The spaceport was full. She finally raised her eyes to him. Because you're human. Because I heard stories about you? Stories? She nodded. They call you the runner of Drifthaven. Said you once smuggled 40 starving colonists through a war zone just for food rations. Jackson frowned. That was a long time ago. And you still did it, she said softly. He didn't answer. She finished sealing the pipe and stood. Jackson, I need to show you something. He followed her to the ship's hold. There, behind, a loose wall panel. She reached in and pulled out something wrapped in an old cloth. A second data ship. I didn't show you this before, she said, because if they'd caught us, this one matters more than the first. He took it carefully. What's on it? She paused. Footage. Medical testing. Locations. Names. You downloaded all this yourself? No, she whispered. My brother did. Before he stopped talking. Jackson looked at the chip, then at her. If this is real, why haven't you sent it to anyone? Because syndicate signals are monitored. The moment I send something like this, they'll trace it, and whoever receives it will be targeted. We have one shot. Get close. Activate it. Expose everything. He nodded slowly. Just then, the ship lights flickered. Jackson turned. That's not right. He rushed to the main panel and checked diagnostics. A new signal was pinging them. Someone just activated a proximity ping. They're searching for us. Theory stepped closer. Can we move without being seen? Only one way to find out. He brought the ship out of the moon's shadow and hit silent thrusters. They drifted toward a nearby debris field, a leftover graveyard of ships from an old battle decades ago. Jackson knew these kinds of places. Ghost fields, forgotten, dangerous, but perfect for hiding. They entered slowly. Metal husks floated everywhere. Destroyed cruisers, dead fighters. A massive carrier. Split in half. It's like a graveyard, Theory whispered. Jackson scanned the area. We'll stay in the shadow of that destroyer. Its hull should block most scans. He brought the ship alongside the massive drifting corpse of the old Syndicate ship. As they settled in, the scanner lit up again, one ship closing in fast. It's not Syndicate, Theory said, peering at the ID. No, Jackson replied. It's worse. The screen showed an old pirate emblem, two jagged blades over a burning star. Scavengers. Theory paled. What do they want? Anything we've got. If they see you, they'll take you too. Can we outrun them? No, he said. But I can talk to them. He opened the comms line. A rough, laughing voice filled the cabin. This is Captain Brull of the Scorn Fang. You're floating in our field, sweetheart. Time to pay the toll. Jackson spoke calmly. I'm just a trader. No weapons, low fuel, nothing but scraps. Then we'll come see for ourselves. Jackson killed the comm. They're docking, he said. Hide, now. Theory didn't argue. She ran toward the vent shaft and crawled in. Moments later, the outer airlock beeped. Heavy boots echoed on the deck. Jackson stood still in the main hall, arms crossed. 3 pirates entered. One tall and armored. One thin and twitchy. One brutish and scarred. The leader sneered. Where's the rest of your crew? Gone. I work alone. Cargo? Mostly junk. The brute pushed past him toward the storage. Area.JAXO stepped in his way. Careful. Some crates are pressurized. One bad move and the brute shoved him aside. The tall one grabbed Jackson by the shirt. Let him search. If you're lying, a sudden clang echoed from the ventilation shaft. They all turned. The brute moved toward it. Jackson acted fast. He pulled a hidden flare from his boot and slammed it into the wall. Bright light filled the room. Alarm screamed. The pirate flinched, stumbling back. Jackson dove, hit the emergency lockdown, and sealed the vent shaft and the pirates in the cargo area. He locked the door and grabbed the controls. Theory. He shouted, hold tight. The ship jerked as he blasted out of the debris field, leaving the confused pirates behind. Theory crawled out of the top hatch, breathless. What happened? We just made more enemies, Jackson muttered. And used up all our luck. But deep inside, he smiled, because now they were in this together. Asterisk. Jackson's ship, the Soulfire, drifted near a forgotten orbital station called Black Echo. It wasn't on official charts anymore, and most people thought it had collapsed years ago. But smugglers, hackers, and ghosts of war still used it when they had nowhere else to go. Jackson docked silently. The station's docking arm groaned as it pulled them in. Place gives me chills, Theory whispered, looking out the side window. Good, Jackson said. That means it's working. Inside, the station was dim, half-lit, and full of shadows. Rusted panels, flickering lights, and the faint smell of mold told them this place hadn't been maintained in years. Still, voices echoed from deep within. Traitors, exiles, outlaws. Jackson led Theory down a tight corridor until they reached a sealed door with a glowing red symbol painted above it, a crude human skull with wires instead of bone. You trust these people? Theory asked. No, he said, but I trust someone inside. He pressed a button. The door slid open with a rusty hiss. Inside was a dark room lit by old screens and cables hanging like vines. A man stood up from behind a workbench, wiping his oily hands on his shirt. He was tall, bald, and missing his left eye replaced with a blinking red lens. Jackson Vire, the man said with a grin. I thought you were dead. Same to you, Keller. The two men clasped hands. Keller looked over Jackson's shoulder at Theory. She yours? She's with me, Jackson said firmly. Keller raised an eyebrow, then waved them in. Come in? Before someone sees you. This isn't the kind of place where questions are safe. Inside, they sat around a dented table while Keller poured black, bitter liquid into old cups. So, Keller said, why's an old delivery pilot and a half-frozen alien girl creeping through Syndicate space? Jackson placed the first data ship on the table. Keller stared at it. His one good eye narrowed. Is that what I think it is? Evidence, Jackson said. Theory risked her life to get it. It's biolocked to Syndicate relay systems. We need access to the F3 relay. Keller whistled softly. You trying to get yourselves erased? That relay's under deep guard. Triple shifts, bioscans, AI surveillance. You can't just walk in. We don't need to walk in, Theory sighed. We need to get close. I can access it remotely from inside the main grid perimeter. Keller turned to her, eyes hard. You Syndicate? I was raised by them, she replied, but I'm not one of them anymore. He rubbed his chin. There's only one way in close enough to link with the relay. He pulled up a dusty map on his holoprojector. Outpost Vera 7. It's abandoned now, but sits close to the relay's border. From there, you might get a clean signal if the power grid still works. Can you get us clearance? Jackson asked. Keller chuckled. Not clearance. But I can get you in. Jackson nodded. Do it. Keller leaned forward. But if I do this, I want something in return. Jackson narrowed his eyes. What? The chip, after you upload it. I want the raw data. No way, Theory said sharply. It's too dangerous. Jackson held up his hand. What do you want it for? Leverage, Keller said plainly. The galaxy's falling apart. Might as well have something to trade when it burns. Jackson didn't like it, but they needed access. Fine, he said. You get us to Vera 7, we'll give you a copy. Keller smirked. Now we're talking. They shook hands. The deal was made, but as they left the room, Theory tugged on Jackson's sleeve. Are you sure about him? No, Jackson said. But he's our best shot. Back aboard the Soulfire, Jackson checked the ship systems. Everything was holding for now. Theory sat beside him. Do you ever think about turning back? All the time, he admitted. But I don't, she smiled weakly. Neither do I. The next day, they flew toward Vera 7 following Keller's directions. The station appeared like a dead spider floating in the dark. Black metal arms stretched in every direction. No lights. No signals. Silent. Jackson docked carefully. As they entered the outpost, the silence felt heavier than space itself. Dust floated in the air. Machines were dead. Control panels blinked with weak power. This place is crawling with ghosts, Theory whispered. I don't like it either, Jackson said. They reached the main grid room. Theory pulled out both data ships and connected them to the console. Jackson watched her fingers fly across the controls. Almost there, she muttered. Just need a few more seconds. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut. JAXON spun. Keller stood on the other side of the glass, holding a remote. What are you doing? Jackson shouted. Keller smirked. You really think I'd help for free? The data's worth billions. The Syndicate will pay me to bring her back alive and this proof erased, Theory cried. Jackson, he cut the power to the console. Jackson slammed his fist on the door. Keller, you'll never get away with this. But Keller was already walking away. Theory looked pale. We're trapped. Jackson looked around quickly. No, he said, we're not. He turned to an old maintenance hatch. If he forgot about the old tunnels, that's his mistake. Jackson grunted as he twisted the rusted maintenance hatch open. It let out a loud screech, echoing through the old station halls. Theory looked nervous. "Do you even know where that goes?" "No idea," Jackson said. "But anywhere is better than staying in this trap." He ducked inside first, then helped Theory crawl in behind him. The tunnel was narrow, dark, and smelled like old coolant and dust. Pipes ran along the ceiling, and their steps echoed on the metal floor. It felt like the belly of some ancient metal beast. Behind them, the station creaked. Somewhere far off, boots stomped Keller's Mercs. "He called for backup," Theory whispered. "They're hunting us." "Let them try," Jackson muttered, pulling out his sidearm. "He knows how to lock doors. But I know how to open them." They moved fast through the winding maintenance shaft, climbing over broken pipes and ducking under loose wiring. Every few meters, sparks hissed from damaged panels, throwing brief flashes of orange light. Suddenly, they reached a grate leading into a large control room. It overlooked part of the power core, where the station's last energy cells were stored. Below, two of Keller's men stood guard. Both carried plasma rifles. Jackson motioned for silence and carefully removed the grate. He slipped down quietly, landing behind a tall crate. Theory followed, soft as a shadow. Jackson leaned close to her ear. "We take them down fast, quietly." Theory nodded. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small tool that extended into a slender, sparking rod. Jackson raised his fingers. 3, 2, 1. He lunged forward and struck the first guard with the butt of his pistol. The man collapsed without a sound. Theory jammed her rod into the other's neck. A brief electric pulse dropped him in seconds. "Nice move," Jackson said. "I had good teachers," she whispered. They moved toward the console at the far end of the room. Theory slid the dataships back into the system port and began typing quickly. "The relay signal is still in range," she said. "If I relink the console, I can bypass Keller's shutdown." Jackson stood watch, gun ready. The station groaned again. Heavy steps echoed from the hallway outside. Someone was coming fast. "Hurry," he said. Theory bit her lip. Almost. The screen flashed green. "Link re-established," she said. "Starting upload now." Jackson turned as the door to the room slid open and Keller stepped in with two more armed thugs. "Well," Keller said, smiling, "look at that. You rats found a way out." Jackson aimed. "Back off." "You won't shoot," Keller replied. Calmly. "Not with the girl uploading your precious truth." "Try me," Jackson growled. Theory didn't stop working. Her fingers flew. The data transfer bar crawled forward 20%. 28%. Keller nodded at one of his men. "Killer. Leave him alive. I want witnesses to see what happens to traitors." The thug raised his rifle. Bang. The shot echoed. But it wasn't Jackson who fired. It was Theory. She had grabbed the down guard's weapon and fired without hesitation. The thug dropped. Jackson fired next, taking down the second. Keller dove for cover, shouting in rage. "Fools! You think you can stop the syndicate?" Jackson advanced toward him, gun raised. "You're not syndicate. You're just a coward." "I'm a survivor," Keller hissed, "and we're the storm coming to wipe your kind away." Theory snapped. She hit the final command key. The dataship blinked blue. "Transfer complete. Upload successful," she said. "The syndicate won't be able to hide anymore." Keller reached into his coat and pulled out a thermal grenade. "You'll never leave this station." Jackson didn't hesitate. He shot Keller in the leg. The grenade dropped and rolled under a console, blinking red. "Run!" Jackson shouted. They bolted out the hallway as the explosion ripped through the control room behind them. Fire burst through the walls. Metal flew. Lights shattered. They ran through a collapsing corridor, dodging falling debris, flames licking at their backs. The station was coming down. At last, they reached the outer hatch. The Soulfire waited outside, floating in the docking tunnel. They dived into the ship just as the docking bay collapsed behind them. Jackson hit the release. The ship shot forward, away from the dying station. Smoke and sparks filled the rear camera. View as Black Echo broke apart and vanished into the blackness of space. Inside the ship, silence returned. Theory coughed, bruised and tired, but smiling. "We did it," she whispered. "The truth's out there now." Jackson nodded, his face serious. "Yeah, but now comes the hard part." She looked at him. "What do you mean?" He stared out the window. "The Syndicate knows someone just exposed them, and they're going to want revenge." Theory met his gaze. "Then let's give them a reason to regret ever starting this war." Asterisk Space was no longer silent. Jackson sat in the Soulfire's cockpit, staring at the rising flood of comm signals flashing across every channel. Ships were calling each other in panic. Civilian broadcasts were being hijacked. Entire colonies were reporting riots, protests, and executions. The data Theory uploaded from Vera 7 had gone viral. And the galaxy was waking up. "They're calling it a hoax," Theory said from behind him. "But some are starting to believe it. Human colonies, fringe worlds, they're asking questions." "Then there'll be targets next," Jackson muttered. She stepped closer. "We started something, Jackson. We can't stop now." He looked tired, burned out, but he nodded. No turning back. Suddenly, the ship alarm blared. "Incoming signal, priority hunter class." Jackson snapped alert. "That's not Syndicate." Theory rushed to the panel. Her face went pale. "It's a bounty hunter." "Not just any. It's Crawlin." Jackson's jaw tightened. "I know that name. He doesn't take jobs for money, only revenge." The screen lit up. A massive ship appeared. On their scanner, a dark red vessel shaped like a blade. It carried no flags, no warnings. Just death. Jackson grabbed the controls. "Strap in. We're not waiting for him to knock." The Soulfire jolted forward. Jackson angled them toward a dense asteroid field nearby. Theory clung to the seat beside him. "What are we doing?" she shouted. "Buying time." They dove into the maze of floating rocks. The bounty hunter ship followed without hesitation. Laser blasts screamed past them, ripping through asteroids and flinging chunks of metal across their path. One hit the rear stabilizer, sending sparks through the control panel. "We won't survive this chase," Theory cried. "We won't outrun him either," Jackson said, gripping the yoke. "So we outplay him." He pulled the ship into a sharp roll, dodging a massive asteroid, then veered down into a narrow tunnel between two rotating rocks. The Soulfire scraped aside, throwing out sparks and alarms. Crawlin's ship followed, but not as smoothly. One of the large rocks spun into its wingtip, knocking the ship off balance. "He's slowing," Theory shouted. "Not for long." Jackson slammed the thrusters and broke free of the field, soaring toward a nearby gas giant. "Please tell me you have a plan," Theory said. "I always do," Jackson lied. He dived into the planet's upper atmosphere. Thick clouds of green and gold wrapped around the ship, messing with sensors. Static crackled through the radio, but behind them, the hunter followed still. "He's locked onto us," Theory shouted. Jackson clenched his jaw. "Divert all power to the forward shields. I'm going to try something." He aimed for one of the planet's violent lightning storms below. "You're crazy," Theory said. "No arguments here," he muttered. They shot downward straight into the chaos. Lightning danced across the ship's hull. Pressure alarms screamed. Systems blinked red. For a moment, Theory thought the whole ship would rip apart, but Crawlin's ship didn't follow. It held back, hovering just outside the storm. "He's waiting," Theory said. "He knows we can't stay in here long." Jackson looked over. Then let's not give him the chance. He activated a decoy pod and emergency escape drone with their transponder code, and launched it in the opposite direction. Then, cutting all non-essential systems, he let the Soulfire drift downward. Quiet as a ghost, Kralin took the bait. He turned his ship and followed the decoy, thinking it was them escaping the storm. Jackson exhaled slowly. That'll buy us a few hours at most. Theory stared at him. Why? Why are you doing all this? You could have left me back at the port. You didn't have to help. He looked at her seriously. Because once you know the truth, you don't get to walk away. She nodded slowly. Then let's finish this. Jackson checked the last location Keller had given them before betraying them, an old rebel bunker, deep in the crust of a frozen moon called Zira. If anyone has the tools to fight back, Jackson said, it's them. Theory placed a hand on the console. Then we go to Zira. As they left the storm behind and set course for the ice moon, Jackson opened the hidden panel near the pilot seat and pulled out a small black box. What's that? Theory asked. He opened it. Inside was a chip badge. Silver, rusted, but the words still clear. United Human Front Strike Commander. You were a soldier, she whispered. Once, Jackson said. He looked out at the stars. But maybe it's time to be one again. The moon Zira spun slowly under a veil of freezing mist. Its surface was jagged ice, dark valleys, and buried secrets. The Soulfire descended carefully, its landing struts creaking as they touched down near a broken ridge. Jackson and Theory stepped out, both wrapped in thermal suits. The cold bit through everything. Are you sure this is the place? Theory asked. He nodded. Keller mentioned an old human rebel base under the ice, only reachable through a frozen shaft near this ridge. They walked carefully over the snow-covered rocks until they found it, an old metal hatch half buried under frost. Jackson cleared the ice and entered a security code from memory. The hatch clicked open. How do you know that code? Theory asked, surprised. I helped build this base years ago, before it was abandoned. They climbed down a frozen ladder. Into darkness. Inside, emergency lights flickered to life as their boots touched the icy floor. The corridors were wide and steel-plated. Rusted signs still hung from the ceiling. One read, UHF Forward Command. Theory walked in awe. This place, it was real. They reached the command center. Most systems were offline, but the core was intact. Jackson powered it up with an old fuel cell he'd hidden years ago. The lights returned. Screens blinked. Consoles glowed. Suddenly, a face appeared on the main screen. An older woman, pale skin, cybernetic eye, sharp voice. Identify yourselves. Jackson stepped forward. Captain Jackson Vire, Strike Commander. Authentication code Delta Echo 71. The woman stared for a moment, then gave a short nod. You're alive. We thought you were dead. So did I, Jackson replied. We need help. The Syndicate is experimenting on humans. We have proof. Theory stepped beside him and uploaded the dataship. The woman Commander Rila watched in silence as the footage played. Children crying. Injections, transformed soldiers, and Syndicate experiments. This changes everything, Rila said. This will unite the fractured colonies. Jackson's eyes narrowed. That's why we're here. We want to fight back. Rila leaned forward. Then you'll need an army. Luckily, we've been waiting. She activated the hidden systems in the base. Doors opened. Lights flooded halls. Dozens of people, humans in armor, engineers, pilots stepped out from the shadows. Theory gasped. You're not abandoned, Rayla smiled. No, just waiting for the right spark. Days passed. The Soulfire was repaired and upgraded by skilled engineers. Jackson trained alongside old comrades. Theory studied relay systems and broadcast channels, helping to plan a large-scale exposure of all syndicate war crimes. They called it Operation Dawnfire, a final strike to broadcast the truth galaxy-wide and free a captured human colony named Aerostation. Jackson stood in the war room with Rayla and Theory. "This will be dangerous," Rayla said. "Eros is surrounded. They won't expect a direct attack." "That's the point," Jackson replied. "And Crawlin?" Theory asked. Rayla nodded. "Our scouts say he's guarding the station now. He's hunting you still." Jackson touched the scar on his hand. "Then it's time we finish this." The battle began in silence. The Soulfire, now armed with stealth plating and plasma cannons, slipped into orbit. Several smaller rebel ships followed close behind. Inside the ship, Jackson sat at the controls. Theory beside him, monitoring the signal boost system. "Ready?" he asked. Theory nodded. "Let's light the galaxy." They approached Aerostation's defense ring. Alarms blared. Crawlin's ship launched to intercept. "He's coming fast," Theory warned. Jackson grinned. "Let him." They dove into a steep descent, dodging fire, engines screaming. Crawlin's ship chased them down into the lower station orbit. "Activate signal now," Jackson yelled. Theory hit the panel. From their ship, a massive energy pulse shot outward. All surrounding stations, colonies, and ships received the broadcast. On screens across the galaxy, the truth played uncut, undeniable. Inside his ship, Crawlin hesitated. He watched the images. He saw syndicate torture, human children crying, worlds broken, entire species betrayed. Even he seemed shaken. Jackson opened a channel. "You can keep chasing us, bounty hunter. Or you can join the right side of history." Crawlin stared silently. Then his ship powered down its weapons. Jackson smiled. "That's what I thought." The rebel fleet moved in, striking Aerostation's guards fast and clean. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was done, the station was free. Theory stood in the control room beside Jackson, watching as human families stepped out of locked cells and into the light. "We did it," she whispered. Jackson nodded. "No, you did it. You started this," she smiled. "We finished it together." Weeks later, on Earth's restored broadcast network, a ceremony was held. Jackson stood on stage in full uniform, beside Theory, now wearing a badge of honor from the United Human Front. The crowd cheered. Colonies across the stars celebrated. The syndicate scattered. Running. Truth had won. And the human who had once just wanted to deliver cargo was now called the spark that lit the stars, forever remembered.